Okay, I'm speaking with Asher Kempe. You were referred to also as Liao.
Yeah.
Okay. I'd like to begin with perhaps some biographical information that you had included in your questionnaire, and we can do it chronologically. Could you please tell me the date and place of birth?
July 22, Berlin.
Okay.
What else?
What else? Okay.
Hebrew date?
Hebrew date. That's not necessary.
Right.
Could you please tell me your education and the school you went to, and the other education you received?
My family belonged to the Orthodox community in Berlin, Adat Israel. They had their own school system. I went for 4 years in the called Bet Sefer Amamiya, what do you call it, school, not infant school, of course.
Elementary school?
Elementary school for 4 years, and then you had a choice of either going on high school doing matriculation, a gymnasium or lyceum for the girls, or going to the Bet Sefer Amami, the more, you had to go there another 4 classes only, and I went to the branch of the gymnasium. I attended another 5 years, which came equal to 6 schooling years, and left and enrolled in the Ort School in Berlin in 1938. The Ort School made efforts after the Kristallnacht in the beginning of 1939 of transferring the students or the whole school to England, and the plans were quite successful. I don't know, does it in detail interest you?
Well, in general,
All right.
basically our interest is post-war.
Anyway, 110 students left Berlin on 5 days before war broke out. We got to London on Wednesday morning, and on Friday Germany invaded Poland. In June or in May, when Holland was invaded or France fell, I was finally interned in England. Went through some 5 or 6 or 7 internment camps, amongst them the Isle of Man. I was released on the grounds you had to have specific paragraphs what you could be released. I was released as a student on the same basis as an English subject would get deferment from military service. I went back to Leeds to the Ort School, stayed there for another year, and then went to London. I worked for, I think, a year or 2 in aircraft production factory, position in the end as a shift foreman.
What years are we talking about now? 40, 41 at this point?
Yes, that's right, 41, 43. In 43 I joined the Hachshara from the Bachad, the British Chalutz movement, the Bnei Akiva, the Mizrahi movement in England. They had 4 or 5 Hachshara places which were mostly connected up with war agricultural committees. The war agriculture committee were interested in getting help for the farmers who all the help had been called up, and they were quite welcome to open special places, hostels, either in barracks or in big places like I don't know. Anyway, one of them was
yes.
In 19, just finish more or less, 43 till 45, I was in the Hachshara place called Buckingham, and another year in North Wales, also another Hachshara place, and that place closed down. I was one of the last to lock up the place, and I from there straight away joined the Jewish Relief Unit, Jewish Committee for Relief Abroad. I had attended very shortly beforehand some training camps. One was in Trink, think a drink, what a big castle belonged to, some Jewish rich guy there, and he opened for the Jewish committee who live abroad to have their training camps, I think for 10 or for 15 days. I only attended, I remember, only for once over a weekend.
Excuse me, you were in Hachshara. Was that for preparation for Aliyah?
Yeah.
That was the entire plan.
Yeah.
And at what point did you shift from Hachshara for Aliyah to being trained for the Jewish Relief Unit? And if I can add, at this point, what made you decide to volunteer for this unit?
At that time there was no unit. There was rumors going of what had happened in Germany in the camps, and Jewish youth who were nationalistic minded asked themselves, why is everybody in the camps, the Red Cross and the military and the Quakers and everybody, and no representative of the Jewish people? And then we heard already that during the First World War there was some kind of also relief from the Jewish community, and these people apparently got things going. And when the Jewish Committee for Relief Abroad established itself, they must have had contact the youth movements in England, because English youth were all called up. So if they really wanted any physical support, they had to do it with them or through them. And I remember quite a few meetings, people sitting up there in the desk, and they kept on reporting and what they found in the camps and terrible conditions.
We're talking now about immediately post-war, 45?
It was in wasn't, or just I have to get my dates right. Look it up when that was. That was in 45, very beginning in 45, and we started pressuring these meetings. I don't know, there were 2 or 3 meetings altogether, pressuring those people like Leonard Cohen, and I don't know, first of all, I wouldn't know these people, I hadn't known them before, and then I got to know afterwards. And I remember I once spoke up, and the people kind of clapped about it, where they're supporting me, but I spoke pretty rudely to them. He said, meeting the second or the third time, you keep on reporting on getting food parcels over and trying to get with the Red Cross and through the Red Cross. I said, don't you think it would be a good idea, people would appreciate seeing some people coming over with the Magen David on their badges?
Were there any other people of your age who were also from Germany?
Yeah, but the point really was that I had trouble, or the Jewish Relief Unit had trouble with me. When I was okayed by the Jewish Relief Unit or by the Jewish Committee for Abroad, everybody had to get clearing from military government. And nobody knew. No clearing came for Leo Kempe. And then they found out that Leo Kempe, quite rightly, is a German and a German national. And as he is not in the British forces, the British military government do not allow German civilians to come back. So Jewish Relief Unit, the Jewish Committee for Relief, kept on pestering them. And in the end, I was the first German civilian, although in British officer uniform, but my passport officially, legally, I was a German national, still the first German, what you call it, not military personnel who went back to Germany. Were
you the only member of your family to get out of Germany?
No, I had a younger brother who was already in London a few months before me. My parents sent him away when he was already 12 or 12 and a half, just before Bar Mitzvah. A terrible decision for them. And my parents, also tragic, they had a permit to go to England, and the German made financial trouble. They traced them that they actually were owing, that they had actually property, a house, which didn't belong to them, belonged to an uncle who went away already long time. And because they had the house, they had to pay the knas with the fine which was put upon German Jewish Jewry after November 38. They had to pay $1 million fine. So whoever, everybody was taxed according to the property. My parents were written down the property of the house, which doesn't belong to them. So until they paid these 10 or 100,000 marks, they couldn't get their papers. And they got the paper on the day war broke out. They got their passports. Of course, there was no English consulate there anymore. But they took the paper from the English consulate, went to the border, Holland. Holland didn't let them through anymore. So maybe one of the reasons I really joined up was really trying to look for my parents, trying to find out what happened to them,
So you didn't hear anything? At what
we had,
point
during
did
the
you
war,
hear?
we had first a correspondence through a neutral country, I think through Holland or to Switzerland. We had relatives there, and they just put it in an envelope and sent it, passed it on, and the same way back. And then when Holland was also overrun, we started corresponding, especially when I was in the internment camp and had the rights of a German prisoner of war, started Red Cross letters. I must have had about a dozen, going forwards and backwards, on the same letter which you got, on the back you wrote the answer. And that's 43 or 44, it stopped. We didn't know, nobody knew really what was happening. So coming back to your question, joining the Jewish Relief Unit was only from the Hachshara in Buckingham. Was this, she's mentioned here, Rudring, but I think she was actually Polish citizen. And I don't remember anymore anybody having German nationality who went as a German, with his German official national position to back to Germany. I wouldn't know.
So when you finally began your work, which was I believe in May 1946, you had heard about the fate of your parents already?
No,
you
of course
didn't know.
No.
So it's a year after the war, and you had not.
No, I didn't know how to stop, and I wrangled myself during my stay in Germany twice to Berlin. Wrangled meaning that there was no transportation. I mean, Berlin was in the middle of the Russian zone. The Russians didn't leave anybody through, except food convoys for military purposes, and any personnel, military personnel, either from Americans or the French or the English, had to have special permission, and these permissions had to be given by somebody rank of a colonel and up. And the colonel decided that this person has duties to fulfill in Berlin, he can go. And nobody ever wanted to sign a paper for me to go to Berlin till I got into Cologne, to Düsseldorf later on. I made some contact with military personnel there, and I had the official rank of a lieutenant colonel. And so that was easier, and so I got the paper, and I went twice to Berlin. I found an uncle, some distant uncle, and some. And so I don't think this belongs here unless you're interested. Anyway, nobody knew. All the Jews were transported, and they were transported out. It's only after the war, I don't know, in 51 or 52, that through an institution here called the Jewish restitutions, they looked after, they made application for German Jews to get property back and get their damages paid for education and so on. And they had their lawyers in Berlin, and so they got hold of the papers. One day, parents deported on the 55th transport towards to East Europe.
So your first, so the kind of orientation you received was basically a continuation of your Hachshara. What kind of training did you get to become a relief worker? No training.
No training.
No lectures.
Except
no.
I wouldn't remember. I remember I had this one weekend, a long weekend. I wouldn't know what we were lectured. Yes, I think mainly on medical problems which could crop up, on diseases and importance of getting your injections and trying to go over with vitamin pills, but I don't want to belittle the training which we got or we are supposed to get. I don't remember anything. I don't think, I went officially over as a social worker, except that I was active on the Hachshara.
Mm-hmm. What kind of social work training did you get?
I didn't
Nothing.
get any training. I went there, I was called officially social work.
Social work. What did you think you were going to find there? Did you have any idea?
I especially asked, and I think this was really understood, because one of the people responsible or in the Jewish Committee for Relief Abroad was a woman, Alison Wood. I think she was a general secretary, not the honorary secretary, but the working secretary. And I made her once come to Hachshara to Buckingham to stay for a day or two, and I think she was really the fostering me, pushing the Jewish Relief Unit to take me on, because she realized that this kind of work could appeal best to Jews or to young Jews in the camps in Germany.
Did you have a working knowledge of Yiddish also?
No. I came from an Orthodox family in Berlin, so far that if a schnorrer came to our door in Berlin, I had to call my mother. My mother also was born in Berlin, but she remembered from her parents apparently Yiddish. I had picked up my Yiddish in the camps, and it was of course worse than most of the other relief workers, because they were proper English Jews, and the English Jew, mostly at least, not there are tens of generations in England, but those who came from Poland 80 years or 100 years ago, of course, they knew very well Yiddish. So there was a little bit of a disadvantage, and I felt very actually awkward of turning my German, making it to a little bit of Yiddish, but I scraped along. I think it was understood that my work would be working with youth to prepare them for Palestine. Especially, I sold them the idea of vocational schools. I even had, whilst I was on Hachshara in 43 and 44, I wrote a paper to my institution that we need. First of all, I'm an engineer. I was from the art school. I was a trained technician, and I was pretty lucky. So was the whole movement, that I wasn't pushed to work on agriculture, going around with a horse, but I could work with tractors or repairing tractors. So I not only stayed in my trade. It wasn't exactly my tractor trade, but at least I could stay in the mechanics trade. I carried on my technical education, but at that time I realized if we want to go on Aliyah, kibbutz has to have more than one technical person, and we also could, at that time I said, draw many more people from town to make preparation Aliyah, if they know it's not only dirty, plain agricultural work, but you could come up then as with engineering training.
Excuse me, as a worker for the Jewish Relief Unit, it was explicit that you were working for Aliyah?
Chas v'sholom.
No, so we're talking,
yeah.
What was your official...
No, I wouldn't know. No. Just help the poor
just
DPs.
To help the DPs.
Yes, maybe they told me, you're qualified or something, a technician, see what you can do with the schools in the camps. I don't know whether I knew there were camps. I had a very pleasant surprise after a week or two, or maybe the first day. Sarah Eckstein, my team leader in Bergen-Belsen, told me, or even I was told did I go through headquarters? I don't remember anymore. I was told there is a Fachschule and you're going to be in charge of it. I didn't know what that meant. I was a worker. I was a foreman in the factory. Didn't know what it means to be in charge of a school. But this is how I spent 2 or 3 months. There was, I might be mixing up these two schools. There was one in Bergen-Belsen and was one in Pocking. Pocking was the biggest DP camp, about double the size of than Bergen-Belsen in the American zone. I was in charge there too, so I I don't know anymore what's what, but there was a camp, there was a Fachschule, trade school in Bergen-Belsen.
Can we go back? Let me just go back a little bit chronologically.
Yeah.
When did you first arrive in the British zone? That was May 1946. And your first stop was Berlin.
No, good Lord. Straight away. I don't know whether I went through headquarters or straight away to Bergen-Belsen.
Oh, you're not clear on that.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's possible that your first assignment was working in Bergen-Belsen.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So your assignment was working in Bergen-Belsen, helping DPs.
Yeah.
And helping set up this school, or was it already established?
The school was already existing.
The school was, and how many? Would you know how many students? It was one Ort school, and how many students?
I don't know whether it was called Ort School. I don't remember. I think in the American zone they called Ort School. I don't know. It was a trade Fachschule they called it.
Trade school. And they were training DPs for immigration anywhere, or was it specific?
No. There was official, especially where the Jewish relief unit was concerned. There was no official preparation for Palestine. There was, how shall I say, the red flag. And I realized on myself later on that the British military or even the field security kept a tab on us, what we were doing to keep us down, not pushing people or not allowing even people to go to Palestine, because that created here in Palestine the problems of what to do with the Jews. So there was no official no official policy of the Jewish committee Relief Abroad, but everybody.
But that was your personal goal for yourself.
You know, I think most of us had the same private goal.
Which group were you with? Do you know what? Can you give me the name of your group leader or people who were in your
leader?
Group?
Sarah Eckstein.
Sarah Eckstein was your group leader. And who were some of the people you worked with?
I don't work with. I was on my own, because there was nobody with me in that trade school. But we were eating. We had two messes, two eating places. One, I suppose, was a non-kosher one, but one a kosher one. And then we were, I don't know whether we were 10 people, Sarah Eckstein, there were one or two Lunzer girls, or Lanzer girls, I mentioned in my letter. At that time was still in, were one or two from the Jewish Agency for Palestine people, Mordechai Breuer, and another guy, he got killed here in the war in Ehrlich. Forgotten his name, first name. I think that's it. We had working contact with the team of the Jewish Agency for Palestine people. There were no joint people, as far as I remember, in Bergen-Belsen, but there was a team from the Jewish Agency for Palestine.
You worked with them unofficially, I guess.
No, they were in uniform, and they usually took over the educational side of the camp.
Who were your teachers? You administrated school, or you supervised?
I'm talking about them. This is the schools, kids have to go to school. Right. Now, trade school was mainly grown-up people. I don't think you had any youth at all. I think the youngest must have been 25, 30 or something.
And how many students would you?
I don't know. I don't think there were more than 100. I think there was also a women's department. They did training in that sewing machines.
What kind of trades did they have?
Where I was in charge was motor mechanics, and I think the electrician course, and that was all.
Who were your teachers? Were they taken from among the DPs as well?
Yeah. The acting headmaster also was. I mean, it was.
What was his name?
No.
Do you remember?
No. If you would say, I would remember, but not offhand.
Would you say that the students who took part in this training school, they wanted to go to Palestine?
I don't think I met anybody from the DPs in the camps who didn't want to go to Palestine.
No one expressed interest in other areas,
No,
such as the United States.
on the contrary, I can tell you stories that
Mhm.
people made incitement against the pressure of military people, military government.
Can you give us some examples? Would you remember any examples?
First of all, there was in June, I think I was already a month in the Kempe, not more, it was quite green still. There was some kind of trouble here in Palestine. I think a boat of DPs boat had arrived and the British didn't want to let them in. They want to send them back before the Exodus. Was it already the Exodus? No, it actually came much later. And they didn't want to go off the boat, and the whole representative of the Yishuv here in Palestine went on hunger strike. And to Lehizdahot, what do you call it? Identify. The camps also made processions, placards, and when we want to Palestine, I don't know what the reason actually was for this whole demonstration. And we talked at the table, do we participate? And I think even Sarah Extant, she was not against Aliyah, I mean, she came now on her own, but I think, I'm not so sure, we didn't get orders, but we were clearly, shall I say, gave the impression not to take active part in it. And it was quite, how shall I say, it was hard for us, and the other really, we had to show the debates that we identify with them, and that, and I remember some of us, I think even myself, I don't remember, participated in that procession going on. And that, of course, was absolute stirring of trouble, and people, there were some journalists who photographed them, I don't know. This is one of these things, but I heard a story which happened about the same time, or a bit later, from a different source, not from personal source, but I heard it from a person who was yes, it belongs to the British zone. You should be interested. When I was at that period in Germany, the Jewish agency people in uniform or without uniform, and there were quite a lot of shlichim which left the brigade and worked there. Everybody prepared for the Exodus, and people were sifted out, and nearly every day big carloads were sent off. We didn't know what for. I wasn't told even what it was for. But I mean, Aliyah. I'm jumping now for a year and a half. When after I finished my year's service in Germany, I went back to England for a few months, and then was sent on Shlichut to France for 3 months to be in charge of a Machane Ma'avar, so going through temporary
with
camp.
Sean Markovich?
No.
I think he had been in France as well.
Not with me. I didn't even know that he was there. Then, of course, we were not anymore in uniform. I was not in uniform. And there people came either from the camps or, what I found later, from the Exodus in the meantime was sent to Palestine, was intercepted and not taken off to Cyprus, but sent back to Hamburg. And then from in the Ham, the peace didn't want to go off, they didn't want to stay in the camp, only Palestine, but nothing else. And then the most hardship cases, women who were expecting and sick cases, were sent on this special Aliyah, which I was in charge in France. So I met some of even the same people I had known before in the British zone, and now they came on Aliyah Dalet. Now, about Hamburg. There was a big camp of all the Exodus people, and they were waiting there. They had been offered affidavits and to go here and there, and then they had pep talks from everybody. Go to America, and people expecting you. You can't go anywhere else. And one of our chaverim, one of my good friends now, who was on Hachshara with me.
By the name of?
Avner Tomashov. Yes, you should get him.
Mm-hmm.
He had a Czech passport, and he joined the British Army. Was Misunaf. He was deputated, he was attached to the interpreter's corps. Tomashov, Avner Tomashov, and he lives in Kiryat Moshe. I'm sure he'll be glad to help you. And he was interpreter, but he, of course, in British sergeant's uniform, and he had to be the link between the military people who were supposed running the camp, were supposed trying to convince the people to not to go to Palestine and to go somewhere else, and to liquidate that black spot which called the Exodus people in Hamburg. And he was asked, no, something, other Chaverim from my Hafshara. He was in a very bad. He was sent on Aliyah Bet. He was on the Exodus. And thousands of people, but in order as a token thing that also people from England can make Aliyah, they sent some 5 or 10 people on Aliyah, on the Exodus. And one of them was this guy. He, in the meantime, you can't interview him because he got killed in a motor accident, but you could get hold of his. Her name was Renate Emanuel when she was on the Exodus. Now
Renata Emanuel?
Renate Emanuel. Now her name is Ada Ben-Meir. She is one of the top people in Kibbutz Shluchot. So if you write Ada Ben-Meir, I think her name is Ben-Meir, if you write it now Emanuel, that surely should get there. She was the wife of this guy whom I heard that story from. This is one day when we are
what was her husband's name?
Baruch Emanuel. We're sitting in the camp and idling around.
We're talking about which camp now?
Camp in Hamburg, which only temporarily holding the Exodus people.
Okay, you were there, and
no,
he was there.
I heard this from Baruch.
Okay, and we'll talk. Okay, fine. Now I have it straight.
Yeah,
okay.
because it's a second hearing in a court, and it would not be admissible. But you can check that with Avner, and you also can check Avner Tomashov, and also with Ada. The loudspeakers came up, and somebody stood up on a big place and made an announcement from the military government. First of all, the announcement made in English, of course, by the governor himself, whoever was in charge of the camp, and then came the interpreter. And he was to say that everybody who is going to America, getting special treatment, you can leave the camp tomorrow, and all kinds of other promises. And he talked in Yiddish because it was his job. And people stood there with their mouth open. How can a Jewish boy go and try to make us go to America? And then he said, I'll try to remember the way I heard it. Everybody has to go tomorrow and enroll in the camp's commander's office to go to America. Loi with a Loi mit dem großen Aleph. That means no, under no circumstances. And they're standing there. Are you a Jewish soldier? Are you a soldier? Are you Englishman? On which side? And אז הוא אמר ביידיש, חבר'ה וארץ שטיינר, זאת אומרת שצריכים לזרוק עליו אבנים כדי לתת את הרושם כביכול שהם בזים בו, ומצד שני הוא נתן הוראות ברורות שלא יעשו דבר כזה. זה שמעתי מברוך, וברוך שהוא היה DP.
You move on to English again.
Sorry.
No, it's okay.
Yes,
it's
I didn't
okay.
realize
No, I
it.
understood you, so there's no...
Baruch wanted to make contact with Avner Tomashov. They were both good friends. So they met in the latrines and they talked a little bit while they made their other business, but that was everything. They made contact. And I heard that story again, I said from Baruch Emanuel, and was later verified by Adler Tomaszov himself. So
that was probably to answer the question about the sentiments of the DPs, whether they wanted to go to...
the DPs, but the sentiments of the people who are working with the DPs. So their tone always, where officially they're watched from over the shoulder all the time by British people, and on the other hand they wanted to, that's what you came for, you want to give the impression that we are with them.
And what was your relationship with the Central Committee in the camp? Did you have any kind of cooperation?
With the Central Committee?
Yosler Rosenzeff?
No, I don't remember. Maybe they came once or twice to visit the school, I don't remember. I'm most likely, personally I had nothing. I even don't remember anymore how I did my work. I suppose I had to have supplies, and whom did I go to?
You don't recall where the supplies came from?
Nothing.
Well, you were there for a short period. You were there for 2 months, correct?
Right.
In Bergen-Belsen for 2 months.
I wouldn't even know whether 2 months or even less. I wouldn't know. I just don't remember.
So your job basically was to have some kind of input into the school,
right.
And then...
show uniform running around there and try a little bit to see what the syllabus was.
Mm-hmm. And as a professional person, you were able to evaluate it.
Yeah. And I don't know what problems they had. They came to me with them. I don't remember. I don't think they took me very serious on that, because the school was running beforehand, and they didn't actually know what I was supposed to do there, and I didn't really interfere with the director's work, and maybe I participated in the teachers' meetings if there was. I don't know. I remember I was present at a few examinations, practical examinations.
Did you write many reports on what you saw at Bergen-Belsen?
Anything.
And besides the work with the was there any other unofficial or other supplementary tasks you did in Bergen-Belsen?
Yeah, of course there was the shall I say, very peculiar, now looking forward, looking at that time, very peculiar thing that most of the families, I think, nearly 100% of the grown-ups didn't have any children with them. On the other hand, there are quite a few barracks with children only. They were not the same, not the parents, they were children without parents. And they were snatched up by the Palestine youth movements, the Shomer Tzair, and I don't know what they were called, and some of them had the names even from the Polish Zionist youth movements.
Where did these children come from?
Same as you, they came from either from the camps itself, or they. Well, you're acquainted already with the Musag, with the wording of Rückwanderer. What? I need to learn something. Rückwanderer are people, Jews, who, when the war ended, were in Russia. Either Russian Jews or people, Polish Jews who were snatched up by the division between Russia and Germany into the Russian part, or fled during the partisaning, fled into, in Russia they said, we are Polish. In Poland, some of them really want to stay and everybody started chasing around looking for people. I think from Polish Jewry only 5 or 10% survived, so everybody running around. But then there were some terrible pogroms which I didn't know at that time. The Polish government, Polish people killed Jews after the war, and then they started all moving on. And first of all they came to Poland, and in Poland they said they are Germans, Deutsche Rückwanderer, because also in Poland were proper Germans. The Germans had sent during the war, first of all they took part of Poland, and they sent the Germans there. The half of Poland were real proper Germans who were super settled there. So they said now the war is ended, the Germans go back to Germany. They called them the German Rückwanderer. So these people, those Jews, called themselves Austrian, and they went into the British zone. So how do we get to the Rückwanderer?
About the children where they come from.
So I suppose these children not necessarily were only in the camps, but like everybody else, was on the move. And I was very much, of course, connected with the Bnei Akiva barracks. They were run by youth leaders, I suppose, boys and girls of not more than 18, 19. During the day they had their schools, I presume, which were run by the Jewish agency people, under auspices, of course, of UNRWA, of the camp director. And in the evening, the social activities, singing and playing and games and whatnot. And I tried not to spend my time with them, especially on Shabbatot. On Shabbat, I did not go to the billets. I mean, in Bergen-Belsen, the billets were not very far away. I'm talking about the American zone. I stayed all Shabbat in the camp. But also in Bergen-Belsen, Shabbat in the morning, I went to the synagogue, we prayed in. I made youth service there. Maybe mixing it up with the American zone. I don't know anymore.
Did you have any recollections of any of the clergy,
No.
rabbis from the British zone?
No.
Any
Abraham Greenbaum.
Mm-hmm.
You heard the name?
Yes,
You
we
got hold of
contacted
him? We were working together. I mentioned before Mordechai Breuer and
You had
earlier
contact
was
with
Abraham
Mordechai
Greenbaum.
Breuer as well? Did you have any official contact with him?
No. Later on, I'll have to tell you something about Mordechai Breuer. We came and some other contact, but at that time we were just sitting next to each other at the table and eating till one day he had a letter from home from his wife here in Palestine and started laughing. Came out. He married a cousin of mine.
Your first contact with him was there. You didn't know him before.
No.
What was
You're a good example. You're a good, how do you call it? Because you bring me back over to.
That's what happens when you first
start
recalling, remembering things. It all comes back in a rush. That's a very natural process. I'd like to ask you if you had any relationship. You said that you weren't aware of the joint. You didn't, in the British zone we're talking about now, in Bergen-Belsen. Yeah. Did you have any kind of contact with the joint? Or any other organizations?
I do.
Besides the Jewish agency? And,
everybody in Bergen-Belsen, everybody wanted to have a finger in the pie, so there must have been also the joint. There were the Friends and the Quakers, or maybe they're the same thing, and the Red Cross. There are dozens of teams running around there. I don't know what everybody did. I think, but we were the biggest team. The Jewish Relief Unit, I think, we had I don't know, Sarah Exin Grebener knows better than I do. I think we were really the biggest team there.
And did you have anything to do with distribution of packages, with supplies in Bergen-Belsen?
Really, the supplies came from the joint, this I remember. Pots and pans even. No, I don't think I know. I don't think anything to do with this.
Now we can move from your work in Bergen-Belsen to the work somewhere else. From Bergen-Belsen, you moved to a different kind of activity.
Now, the following thing happened. At the same time, or 2 days later than I left, the girl from Hachshara, where I was from Buckingham, Ruth Ring, also.
What was the name of that city again?
Ruth Ring. She is now in Tira 3, or no, Ruth Tor. I mentioned her, and she's also mentioned here, Ruth Ring. Here. And she was really, I think she was sent over to open a Hachshara, or to look after. I think she was more explicitly given the task of collecting or looking after the youth who want to go to Palestine. That was her only qualification. I was at least a technician, and she was just, I think she was working in the kitchen in Buckingham. Anyway, she left England 2 days later, and she was given assignment to go to Düsseldorf, which that was headquarters of military government for the British zone, and to wait there for further assignment. There was a group of one of the camps, a few dozen or few hundreds boys and girls were to come, and they wanted to requisition a big castle, and there to make a hachshara, really agricultural, for agriculture.
Where did these people come from?
That was a plan.
Oh, that was the plan.
That was the plan. So she was sitting in Düsseldorf, and having a good time, she said it herself. There was nothing, I don't know, maybe they couldn't, I can see already here something about the requisitioning of the training farm. And I wrote that, so I must have known something. Anyway, after, I think it wasn't more than a month, I don't know, maybe 2 months.
We're talking now about July, perhaps?
Yeah, must
well,
be.
this is in, this was written, I think, in October.
That was September, October.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but there was a temporary position. There was a girl who was sitting the area representative of the Jewish Committee for Relief Abroad. Alison, no. No, just a second. Weiss.
Right, you
Mary
said that
Weiss.
she had left.
She went first on leave, and I was supposed to put in for her temporarily. And it was 2 weeks and 3 weeks and 4 weeks. I have no idea at the moment what I did. Maybe I tried to get things moving. But then all of a sudden, Mary Wife is not coming back. You are going to be area representative. And that's the same qualification for anything else. Nothing.
So area representative meant, what was the
job?
job?
First of all, the darga, what do you call it? The military rank of a lieutenant colonel. At an office of 3 rooms, I think, in the main military government building called the Stahlhof or Steelhouse. 2 secretaries. One was a Jewish girl. I think she survived in Germany because her father was a guy or something. And 3 telephones. I don't know. 3 military phones. One through the German exchange. Nobody told me what to do. Nobody. I didn't even get assignment to come to headquarters and we'll tell you what to do. Nothing. I don't know. I think so. Some accident when you have to go to Düsseldorf and then for a few weeks and help to Rudring to put up Harsha.
Because of Mary Weiss's absence.
Yeah.
And then it became, she didn't return and then you continued.
Right. And then it became more permanent. I think for another. I saw a report here in December, so I must have been around there still. Yeah. So it must have been for 4 or 5 months. And that at the beginning, I was sitting at the office. I mean, I just really first time I'm trying to collect now. First time to make a little bit order in what's happening. I don't know, looking after correspondence came in, and I remember here and there Jewish family Jews came in who lived as Jewish German Jews. They did not belong to the DPs. They survived, either were completely hidden, but most of them because their husbands or their wives were Aryans, and they wanted, there was terrible shortage of living space. I mean, all these problems, accommodation. I remember one case, I think the guy even was blind, or was different. Anyway, somebody came in with his wife, and they had a house in Cologne. It's not very far from Düsseldorf, and all the time they put in requisition or request to, at least for the 6 parties, at least to get 1 apartment back, because they were living in terrible condition. And all of them, they couldn't get it. And especially annoying was that in one of the apartments was a Nazi, an old Nazi living. They knew and they proved, but nobody wanted to look at them, make inquiries who's a Nazi or not. They didn't want to open the thunder box. So one day, I mean, he came to me already know the story. Now, there is a flat, there is an apartment going to be empty, but it's, I heard the British government is going to requisition for their offices. So I went to the guy, he's also lieutenant colonel or colonel, and I told him the story. It's a very sad story about a blind man, and he's been persecuted by, as you know, by the Germans all the time, and he's a Jew, and this is his house legally. It doesn't mean he gets any money for it. It has to come before to court and all. In the meantime, he's gone away to live. Here, he's got an apartment there, and didn't say this. You are going to snatch it away, but think there. And looked at me, don't know anymore what he said on the subject, and then said, "You Jews, you always want to have it, proper anti-Semitic, not in a very rough way like the Germans did, but in a refined way. You always want to have the best of it. I have to look after my personnel, and you think I know where to house them, and altogether, what you are doing to us in Palestine." And then he opened the door. He was agitated. He opened the door and he didn't say go out or something. He opened the door for me. He says, "My brother was killed 2 weeks ago in Palestine by your Jews." No, how did you get there? Oh, what was I doing in Düsseldorf? So I was trying a little bit here and there.
You were basically concerned with the local community. You were not. Your major work was not with DPs.
No.
Did you come in contact with DPs?
In a minute.
Okay.
That was my work, and
was basically to get people in Düsseldorf.
I was representing Jewish interests of Jews, German Jews in the whole area of military government.
Which area did that cover?
That was called the British Zone. The headquarters of British Zone was in Düsseldorf.
So you were in charge of Düsseldorf and
of the whole area representative. The whole area of the British area, I was representative. This has nothing to do with the headquarters of Jewish Relief Unit.
I see.
There were of all the units they were in charge, but where where civilian things were concerned, that was my desk. Billets are interesting. I was billeted in Transit British Officers Hotel. It wasn't called a hotel. It was a German hotel. What do you call this? Whatever. Where people are billeted. What do you call these? Official. And I was usually only had breakfast and was in the evenings. Evenings I came back from work very, very late, so I even missed that usually, and I didn't have much to miss because I didn't eat anything except the dog biscuits and hot drink. And one thing I do remember this, it was quite touching. One day, I don't know, 2 or 3 weeks, I was sitting always with a couple in the mess. The mess officer was in charge of this billet. I don't know, it must have been 20, 30, 40 people eating in this and living in this place, in this hotel. And it says, "I've ordered the kitchen. Instead of having you getting once a month ration, or that we have personal ration of one sardine box, what do you call it, sardine tin a month, you'll get one every week. My colleagues have decided that you don't eat any of our food, if it's kosher or whatever, you can see, but you eat sardines, and also you give a double allowances of eggs." That was mainly the only thing I ate. I do so later on. I got some tins, kosher tins from the Chief Rabbi's Council from England. They sent over tins for the Jewish relief workers also. I don't know where I got them from. Some of them must have been taken over from England. Some of them got through Eindhausen, through the headquarters. They must have sent me, I don't know. But from time to time, once or twice a week, I allowed myself a meat tin. I warmed it up. I don't remember when I warmed up in the room, or I asked them the whole pushke, the whole conserve to be warmed up in hot water, and then I opened it up on the table. I don't remember anymore. But I didn't had later trouble because of undernourishment. But here, 20, 30 years later, it came out. But at that time, I didn't realize.
Did you have anything to do with the religious needs of the Jews. Do you remember anything in that area?
Not at that time. I had some contact with the Jewish leaders of the community. One guy called Dr. Goldschmidt, or Mr. Goldschmidt. I remember because I got him into a hospital, and he was riding with me at a car accident. Nothing happened to me, and he got into a hospital, and it seemed that serious that Henry Lunzer was in charge of the whole thing, especially came to Düsseldorf and to pay him a sick visit and to apologize for my hastiness and whatnot. Everybody at accident, everybody was trying, rushing around and getting things done.
I've heard of quite a few accidents of relief workers. It seems to be a common...
Yes, that's what I said. Yeah. At that time, I mean, first of all, there was no German traffic very much to be in the way, but everybody was rushing. Me especially. I don't suppose Red Cross worker or Christians would come here tomorrow. They finish at 4 o'clock. They finish their work. We work without time, without morning. I remember in the mornings and in the evenings and in Shabbatot I tried very much to be at this Hachshara, at least that over Shabbat they have a hot meal there. The Rot Ring was, she had a kosher kitchen there, the whole thing was Hachshara. So, no, the religious needs came in. Now, I want to finish with that now, with the Düsseldorf official thing. One day came into my room in Düsseldorf, and I don't think they were very clever in doing it because I think I had a microphone in my room, or my phone was tapped. I only found this out all later. Mordechai Breuer, with the area representative of the second of charge of the whole Jewish Agency for Palestine people in uniform. He was later on ambassador or something in Hoffman was his name, I've forgotten his name. Anyway, they both came.
Michiel?
Huh?
I'm Michiel.
Yeah, that's right, that's right. And they told me about the Rwandans. They are coming now every day, dozens and dozens of Jews from Russia, from Poland. They're coming with the German railway transportation.
These are the infiltrees that I read about?
Infiltrees. I wouldn't know at the moment what to make with infiltrees business. What does it mean, infiltrees?
Those who infiltrated into the areas?
Yeah, but who?
Perhaps.
Who gave that name?
Infiltrate work. Are these the people? I'm not quite sure what you're referring to.
Yeah, but this is also a place of mine.
Right.
Oh, this I've written that.
Right, this is your...
Yeah, all right, I'll call them infiltrees. Okay. Yeah, in German it's called Rückwanderer, maybe in English. I did remember the English thing for it, infiltrees. And they are being received at a certain railway station, somewhere outside. Nowhere a big town, because they didn't want all these hundreds or thousands of Germans who came in over to go into the towns, because the towns had their own problems. Everything was bombed out, and so they tried to push everybody into the villages. And amongst them there are dozens of Jews, and we know what to do with them. They talk to me openly. We've taken them over as soon as possible to the American zone, because the British didn't allow any new camps for DPs.
Is this official, to take them to the American zone?
Of course not. Of course not. And
what did they think you were doing with them?
Who?
These Jews. Where were they officially supposed to be going? You were taking them to the American zone.
I didn't say I was. I said they said there are Rückwanderer, there are infiltrees coming into the station, and we are taking the Jewish aid for Palestine, or we people from the brigade, the Bricha, we see to that they won't stay long.
I understand.
What we want from you getting daily reports in. We opened a special unit in Wipperfeld, next to the place where every day these, I don't know how many train loads came in. We had to, our unit, I was actually in charge of, also in charge of the unit, but I don't remember anything much except that I went there a few times. They must have been there at the station, and if any Jews there, tried to help them, give them to eat. I have no idea, really social work. But from the station, they were put in different villages. Now I was to give over to the Jewish agency people the places where 10 Jews here, 8 Jews there, 20 Jews there, that they can come later on, make contact and then collect them. Of course I do it, and I did. But somebody must have got hold of it, either by listening to the phone or otherwise. And but this is already, I didn't know it at that time, and maybe I think even precautions, I think I didn't phone him from the office, I went to somewhere else and used the German phone, not the military phone, in order to make contact. Now I visited, of course, at that I had my own transportation. Beginning, I had the Volkswagen from Mary Weiss, but I don't know what happened. I think I smashed that up. Yes, that's a different story. I had later on. I had a what you call it, a 1500 weight. It's a half trunk, not on the proper wheels, but not a big lorry. And that was really 20 hours a day in use. And I went around all these villages and talked to people and what they need. And some of them already had been briefed before they came that they will be contacted by Jewish agency people, not by us. So they didn't have any requests except now coming in the religious requirements. Some wanted to kosher food and Shabbos candles. And this is one of, I don't know where I wrote it, I remember it's one of the more pathetic positions I was in. I wrote to headquarters, let me have a few packages of candles. And this,
you didn't write it.
And I didn't get them. It was Sarah was a woman, Sarah Greenberg. She was supposed to take over from me. And she only needed 3 drivers and 10 secretaries. She did everything herself. She couldn't delegate. And anyway, she drove me crazy with that. She didn't somewhere, maybe not to identify yourself with the people is very hard, but I think I tried a little bit to be in the middle, but to be that cold as she was terrible.
So your visits to all these communities was on behalf of your non-official business.
That's
How were you able to work that out as someone who officially?
I don't know. Where I got the reports from. I must have got on official channels that Jews are here and there, that way you look after them. Or do you
remember which areas they were? Any villages offhand
well,
that you?
No, I don't remember.
Okay, you can continue.
Those Jewish Rückwanderer, those infiltrees, as you say, they were called at that time, were billeted, were put next to German village, to German small towns. They put up in tents. And always, I don't know, 200 Germans, 20 Jews. And I could find them easily, just ask where are the Jews, and I found them they were only bare tents. I think they had beds, I'm not so sure even, but everybody was sitting in the beds and eating, so there were no tables, no just chairs, nothing. So remember one of the first things I did, trying to requisition, to get these facilities like chairs and tables, and not for each tent, but a communal thing. And trouble I had in getting the coupons for wood, and to factories, and I begged, and I went to German authorities, I went to the English authorities, and I got the thing going in the end, but then I left. I'm sure the Jews left as well till they got there, the tables and the chairs. But they were bare. They came bare. They didn't expect anything. Not like you have today the caravans. Nothing they expected. They expected to be taken away in a few days, and that's usually what happened.
So either they went to the American zone,
I suppose later on...
or they could have been taken, were they taken to larger camps?
To what camps?
Larger DP camps, or?
They were not allowed to go to DP camps. I suppose Josel Rosensaft took in a few hundreds, but officially they want to liquidate the DP camps, not get new in. And also the DPs had special like double rations, more than the Germans, and they had only German rations. I don't think many really got into the proper DP. They were over to the Americans. The Americans were very large. Every Jew there, even in a DP camp, not even to prove you have a DP or not, special privileges as all the being persecuted by the Germans.
Mm-hmm. What would you say, working in Düsseldorf, what would you say were the major problems of Jews? This time was about a year and a half after the war ended. You mentioned property requisition.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, getting back their.
I mean, first of all, really to get a roof over their heads. Some of them used to live before the war in Düsseldorf or in towns, and they were in hiding or they were somewhere. They came back, and either the flat or the apartment, the house didn't exist anymore, and they couldn't do very much. But even they existed, that somebody was living there. This, I think, was the main problem. Other things, finding in claims to get their property back, either property like houses and so on, or businesses, or people living in other people living in their houses, and the whole furniture belonged to them and was still there. At least some these things to get them. People were not. How shall I say, hard up for every day for pocket money. I don't know where they had money. Maybe at that time the Jewish communities, through the German governments or otherwise, had enough funds to really see that people didn't have to go around like beggars.
The age range, would you say that they represented all the ages, or most of them were older?
Elder people.
And these are people who you thought were there to stay, weren't going anywhere?
I wouldn't know. I don't know. I don't know whether I talked with them about Palestine, but I wouldn't know.
Did your common language help at all? That you spoke the same language? Did that help at all?
I didn't speak German. Till this very day, I don't speak. I understand, and I refuse to speak. I can't speak. When I told you I was on the tour in the libraries in Europe a few years ago, I made appointments to see the libraries before, and I remember saw the main national library in Munich. They had a special building there which interested me. And I got there in the morning, 10 o'clock appointment. There was a whole main the head librarian and the biggest guy from the university was sitting on. What are we sitting on? You're waiting for the interpreter. I didn't tell them. I told them I understand a little bit German. Let's start going. But no. So.
Okay, so was there any?
Yes, of course, it helped that they I understood them and all that, and I understood freely what was going on the street and whatnot, and all the personnel, like the waiters and all the military establishment were all Germans, not Jews, but I don't know where this Mr. Goldschmidt came in. Why did I once, maybe we went together, I don't know, I think we had a meeting, I don't know, somewhere, I don't know, I didn't have so much contact with the Jewish community in Cologne, it was Cologne or Düsseldorf, this Goldschmidt. I have no idea.
Were there any portion of the population DPs, or most of them were native German? You wouldn't
know.
And when did you finish your work in Düsseldorf?
Then came an additional thing. This, first of all, when I said besides the Rückwanderer, these things, and they opened a special unit. I think I've forgotten even number 95 Jewish relief, they were responsible to me. That was in Wipperfürth.
Yes, you mentioned that.
And here it's somewhere written. And
Yes.
I have to read this even before I've talked. Yeah, maybe time or such something later. Yes, I had once a big, how shall I say? We were talking about the being torn between the loyalties and the official representation of being given the permit by British military government to do work, social work, and not do Aliyah Zionist work. I don't know how either headquarters phoned me or told me I should be careful or see that this Millie is more careful. There is at the station, at the railway station, whenever transport comes, there are 2 or 3 of the Palestinians there, not in uniform, of course, in order to try a little, not to get them out, at least to tell them the code work and to wait till we come and so on. But there are also field English spies, English counter. What do you call these? No, help me.
Counter spies?
Not counter spies, but they secret service.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they were from the department against the illegal aliyah to Palestine. And they knew what's going to happen with it. Maybe they also came for a reason in order to see whether any German war criminals among those coming back. I don't know. But anyway, they were aware of those 2 or 3 Palestinians running around. They couldn't do anything. But this unit in Wipperfürth had all Jewish girls, and Jewish hearts, Jewish moms, because they gave too much physical help to those Palestinian boys. They had them in for lunch and invited them and so on. I said, this has to stop. I said, you Jew and you Zionism. I gave them very, very strong orders that we're getting into very hot or deep water if they prove that we are going to collaborate with those Palestinians. And don't want to hear that somebody's seeing you with them. So where were we now? Yes, after this after this at the same time, my original project, Progress, that was first of all the farm of Rudring, Ollersheim, I think it's called here, I can see. Mm-hmm. And then I was supposed to make my own camp. I don't remember anything. That was Schloss Lach, I see somewhere here.
Right. So the next...
and I just don't... I'm just guessing. I have no idea anymore. The names, I mean, if you want really anything, you'll have to give me a chance to read this, and then this is where I can't tell you anything.
Probably Chagit Lavsky will want more details. She'll contact you after you read this.
In reports. December, the half-year contract expired, and they did not renew it with Ruth Ring, and myself got onto the blacklist of the British government.
Because of the work that they heard you do.
Apparently. And we were both, only it was very, very much later, headquarters called us back. You're being transferred to the American zone, they told me. And Rudring, they didn't even renew her contract. I mean, she did her Zionist work too openly, apparently.
Uh-huh. They weren't they weren't concerned you were going to do your Zionist work in the American zone, or wasn't their concern anymore?
It was. I got my salary, 10 English shillings per week,
mm-hmm.
half a pound. I think I don't want to say now. It was something good. Comparison with the joint salary, which was the salary, was the pocket money. I got to Holland. I had my same British uniform, my flash and everything. I was further Jewish. There were in the American zone 20 Jewish relief workers from the British, mm-hmm. on the British Jewish Committee for Relief Abroad. The same as I think were in the British when they were joint workers.
Why would you have any idea why they were British relief workers in the American zone? If the joint,
for instance,
perhaps?
I remember I came to Camp Pocking Camp. I found a Jewish relief worker there. She was nurse. Apparently, there was no need for the nurses in the British zone.
Mm-hmm.
What else was there? I don't know what the other qualifications the other people were.
So you were in the American zone for another 6 months?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. How would you compare, even though it's not exactly our subject, how would you compare working in the British zone and working in the American zone?
Much freer, could use your, you weren't hampered so much, the rules and regulations and asking headquarters here and asking people either headquarters of your own unit or headquarters of the Berlin.
What did you do in Pocking?
I was first of all sent to headquarters of American Army in 3rd Army in Heidelberg. So for a whole, I don't know this day why I was waiting, had to wait there for a whole week for Simon. Then the head guy from UNRWA called me, he was a Negro, and he told me, we're going to send you as your religious man. You've got a religious community in Pocking, and I would like to see after their needs. And then later on it came out there was also a Fachschule there, which I preferred very much, playing the rabbi there, because there's so many Jewish religious sects in the camps, and each fighting each other. They had their biggest soul was they had to have their heads here. I'm getting anti-Semitic. So I know how it came, by the way, because they had, I think, the only community of Lubavitchers. They were in Pocking, and they could. No, I realized. I never heard the name before, and you know what it was. I think he said something in Lubavitch, this Negro. I think what his rank was, I don't know. It was more than a colonel. The Lubavitchers in New York must have pressured that the Lubavitchers and the camps are being what you call it? You don't get your rights. If you don't get your rights, what's coming to you? What do you call it? You're being is this your policy not to help?
No, I'm sorry. I don't know.
If you are under, if you don't, everybody gets a ration of pound sugar a month, and they get only half of. What do you call it? You're being this. All right. Okay. The people in New York, the Lubavitcher, felt that the Lubavitchers didn't get enough food parcels or whatever the others get.
Discriminated against?
Discriminated.
Okay. So didn't know that was your.
Yeah. Because there were official rations, which were, of course, in the American zone higher than in the British zone, but then through the Kempe authorities, but then there came lots and lots of parcels in from the joint, and of course the British-American zone had much. And these things were allocated through the part keys. This is a big, how shall I say, tragedy what happened in the camps. Instead of having Jews being TPs liberated, they became labor. There were all kinds. If you had a majority in one camp belonging to one party, and the other majority were completely
discriminated against. Discriminated against.
And the funny thing is, I had to laugh. I told them, when I was in Pocking, which was a big campus, I think 6,000 DPs there. We had, instead of hundreds of welfare workers like in Bergen-Belsen, we were 10 people in uniform. We managed very well, and they managed, the peace managed very well. And then there was at least one more UNRWA camp 20, 40 kilometers away from the big camp, and the UNRWA director of the camp made me in charge of that little camp. And then I came there and I had the same complaints about we're not getting enough food parcels and those. I said, which party do you belong to? We belong to the Labour Party, because there the revisionists were in charge, and usually it was the other way around. Usually the left wing where the majority, they got the parcels, and the others...
Mordechai Breuer had said something very similar. The Pekelach are politics.
Yeah.
So...
They contaminated the youth with it, the children. They had to belong to.
Did you find that in terms of emigration desires, was it different in the American zone than the British zone?
It was much, much opener, the going to Palestine.
More open. Would you say that the same percentage wanted to go to Palestine?
I wouldn't know.
You wouldn't?
You see, I knew there were people on the spot who looked after that thing, after transportation and bringing them on, transporting them. And they mostly talked Hebrew. My Hebrew was not well enough. I didn't want to give the impression that I was spying. They had enough, I think, not only that the British spied on me, I think even the Jewish agency people thought I was spying on them. I had one or two cases like that, which I wouldn't do today, but was silly of me. There was once, I heard there was a big also camp from the infantries in Lübeck. There was on the border between old Poland and Germany. And I still, in the back of my mind, wanted to hear what happened to my parents. I said, maybe my parents are still alive, they lost the memory, you hear of all kinds of things. And Bergen-Belsen was not so far away from me, but I heard there is a small consignment going to Lübeck. I don't know what they sent there. Anyway, this thing was done by the camp people, but they used our transportation as an ambulance, a Red Cross ambulance. So I invited myself and went with them. I'm sure they thought I'm going to spy for the British there. What's doing that?
And your tour of duty ended in the American zone approximately?
Yeah, of course there was these two little periods of my going to Berlin. One was in the end of my duty in the British zone, which I got myself
before you went to the American zone.
That's right, a chit from one of the colonels in Stahlhof, in military government. I don't know, maybe I told him the truth, I don't know. I told him Berlin, I want to see what my parents and so on.
Did you go back to your former home?
Yeah. And I stayed there, I think, for 10 days. Stayed with my uncle, or what I said is kind of funny. It's not a relative. His wife, as I heard, was in a DP camp next to Pockings. I mean, I went to see his wife, and I wanted to make the picture, but they weren't interested. They didn't have the family relations wasn't too well apparent during the war, so she was split. She was sitting in the camp, and he was in Berlin. And then the second time before I left the American zone, again I went to Berlin. I don't know what actually I wanted to see again, or to do something. I don't remember anymore. What was the purpose of my going? Of course, on my first visit, I went to the cemetery where my grandparents are buried. My father was in charge. He was of the burial committee. He was the officer in charge voluntarily, and I got there. The gatekeeper there, Kempe, he started crying. Your father, such a good man. So, funny thing, when I came to Berlin first time, I reported to the Jewish Relief Unit. Did you speak to any of the Jewish relief workers in Berlin? You've got the names you have.
I probably do.
Hannah Rath, I was in Hannah Landau today. And I got the driver with a car, official car, not a Volkswagen or a big thing. And everybody has to be properly, because it was French and Russian, so it was also Jews, and the British flag, and also the big Jewish relief sign on the car, and the cemetery was in the Russian zone. And he made me so he didn't want to go, and I'm afraid. And then we got there, and he told me, I'm not going out of the car, this is British territory, I'm not going out of the car. So Goy, of course, German non-Jew. Right. What else?
Do you have anything you'd like to add?
Yes, in the middle ones, two incident episode. One of my good friends in England got married in August or something, and I asked, what about home leave? No, there is no such a thing except compassionate leave. So, but at that time something new came up. German Jews, I don't know, from Berlin or from Germany, got permits to England. And I don't think there are more than half a dozen transport. Each time I had to be accompanied by somebody from the Jewish Relief Unit. So they gave me one transport so I could attend the wedding in London, I don't know where it was. So the funny thing is, sorry, I have to give you the name, and I just remember again to show you the book.
Okay.
It exists as well. A Jewish girl who in 1933 didn't know she was Jewish, and she's all the time in hiding with her mother in Berlin. And in the end she writes, she went on one of these transports to England. So that I bought the book 5 years ago. I read 2 pages, 2 chapters, and then when I got to the time of the beginning of when I left Berlin, I couldn't keep on reading. This year, Tisha B'Av, I read the book from one day to the next over. And in the evening I said, I must ring that woman. Because first of all, maybe she heard the name of my father, and secondly, if that was a transport which I took over, that might have been. Took her half an hour on the phone. She's living in Tel Aviv. She was the correspondent living in Germany sometime for Ma'ariv, for the Israeli press. She's now living here in Israel. That book was originally written in German, I think, to English and to Hebrew. And on this, a play was made, shown in Germany, for many, many months. I knew about it, and she told me. So there's nothing to do with Jewish relief work, but if to get the background of Jews surviving in Germany, this is one thing.
When you finished your work, you went back to England?
Yeah.
And then you went...
I couldn't adjust myself. I was offered, by the way, when I left, and I knew my another 6 months of the Jewish Relief was up, and I heard I was going. I think even the Jewish Relief wanted to continue with me, I don't remember. We had 2 in that team of 10 people, maybe I exaggerate, maybe there were only 8 people. There was 1 nurse, there were 2 doctors, one was from the Jewish Relief Unit, one from the Joint. There were 2 Jewish agency people, all people in uniform. 2 Jewish agency people and myself, and 1 or 2, I think 1 joint worker. She was really the social head worker there. There was the whole team. We did all the things and worked quite nicely. I mean, there was self-government of the people themselves. And when they heard I left, the joint woman told me, I am going to beg. I have been offered by Munich joint to offer you my job. I was very flabbergasted. No, it was very... No, you are not helping.
Excited?
Not excited, but...
Emotional?
I took it as a compliment.
Uh-huh.
But I thought myself, I'm getting too much involved. I'm going too much to identify myself too much in it. And I don't want to get a DP mentality. There are people even from the Jewish Relief Unit, 1 or 2 who took off the unit, they went from and left and stayed there. Woodring had one of these troubles too, before, because she didn't go back to England.
She stayed?
She stayed, and then she went on illegal. She went with one of the brigade boys. I don't know how she really got here. Anyway, I went back to England, and after, I don't know, 2 or 3 or 4 weeks, proper holiday, and I met my future wife. By accident, she came from Palestine to England, and we made a trip around there, had a nice time in Cambridge, in Oxford. They tried to give me all kinds of jobs from the movement, be in charge of this and that, and Bachad, yes, and I couldn't adjust. And then they came up with a very nice project. A Jew had an agricultural machinery factory near London, and he was thinking of exporting his machinery to Palestine, and they thought that I or the movement are going to be representative of their machinery. They sent me to the factory. I had to travel every morning an hour by train to see the production line, but this was another 2 months, and then the Bachad saw not much good, haven't got much patience anymore, and then they offered me on Aliyah Dalit. You know what that means?
Explain it to me.
Yeah. I knew that people going on Aliyah beds. If I would offered, maybe I would have taken, but I was more pleased to be offered Aliyah Dalit, meaning really making Aliyah on like a human being. But I had to do some work in the transit camps in France for 3 months. So in February or March 48, I left France.
For Palestine.
For Palestine. It's still running?
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's okay.
It's after 50 years, I think, that people may say secrets. I've never seen it published, and I've talked to a few people about it who smiled knowingly, but I've never seen it recognized officially. I was put in charge of. I was a passenger boat, but there were some 50 passengers on it. It was an Italian boat, and of these 50, I think 30 were Jews on making Aliyah, and I think some 10, 12 were from my camp, the religious people. And they knew me all the time as being the boss around, and I made a kosher kitchen there. I got myself from the cook 2 big pots, and I kashered them, and I saw vegetables or whatever there was, at least for those 10 people who wanted to eat kosher. Anyway, we come to Haifa. It was on Friday morning, and we thought we were going to be unloaded so boat comes on passport control, British officer and 2 policemen, 1 Jewish, 1 Arab, sitting on each side of the officer, and they're opening the passports, calling out the names. And all of a sudden, you're standing there in line. One of these women I was in charge of comes up. On this stage, being in the American zone, I started changing my name. I mean, I had a Hebrew name. In English, when Leaw here became Asher. Reb Usher, vergessen mein Nomen. I've forgotten my name. Now, what happened here, if you tell anybody, my children, that they don't understand the joke. That woman came on papers from Russia on a certain name. From Russia, Poland, a different name. Now, she must have the 6th or 7th name now, different names. And she didn't know anymore what was the name because the passport was not on her name. So I went up to the captain. I said, I'd like to see our passport was my group. He showed me, so I looked up the picture of the woman. I told him my name is Shlomonovich or something.
Well, how did you come under?
My name.
You came under.
No,
okay. You came under. You had a certificate.
I have a bad contact with my children. never, and I'm not the only one. People my age, we start now a little bit of talking, a little bit. My wife has been in hiding in Holland. She was a Dutch. She is writing a book for her things for our grandchildren. But children are very annoyed that it's never again. Yeah.
You came with a certificate, but you said in the meantime...
No.
How did
we all had tourist visas.
You had visas.
Yeah. I got in England, I think before I went to Germany, I had two papers. One was an UNRWA paper, and the other one is a German English traveling paper. And I think even I wrote down nationality German, I'm not sure anymore. But this looked a little bit like a passport, and not a paper like I have seen these English traveling, like a little bit passport, with the two hard covers, my picture in it. And when I got it in Marseille, just before I got on the boat, it was all right, the same as I had before, only with a stamp in it by, for the Italian or the French or some English authority, or the consul in Palestine, good for 1 month to visit Palestine. So everybody of my group had that in. My papers had been used in the meantime for 3 or 4 different people, and the pictures had been changed. Now, when I was standing in line and watching that British officer, I saw he was always, paging forwards, paging backwards, and not only reading the name and looking at he made himself very much look at the entry permit or the visa. But I say he got in the back always, he was looking for something. And I took my paper and I looked in the back, and there was a little red cross in the back page but one. And I looked at the paper with all the other people, they all had the same thing. I mean, there was a sign for the British officer. These are, I don't know whether he got money for it or whether they made it out of ideology, but these are cases, don't
bother them?
Pardon?
Let them through?
Let them through. He officially, they had things in, but they apparently asked not to acquire too much. I don't know really.
And this little red cross apparently was there when it was used previously as well.
A very, very small cross in the last page but one.
Do you have these documents by any chance?
No, they were taken away straight when I got on in Haifa. The Jewish agency people took over. They were using it again after the ascension. Yes, don't think we got off on Friday or from the boat. No. On Friday there was shooting in the port in Haifa, so we couldn't get off. So you go off tomorrow, says tomorrow. We are a religious school, we don't go off the boat on Shabbat. So the captain heard that and he called me and he says, all right, I can't force you to go off the boat tomorrow, but I'm going to Cairo to unload. You coming with me? I said, no, that's pikuach nefesh. So on Friday, on Shabbos morning, the boat, it's not unlike today, straight when you were boated over on small boats. So you brought in, very much in hiding because the Arabs were still all around, and Jewish agency people giving everybody forged Israeli identity cards. I was told, you're going to visit your family. Why did I give an identity card if I was only a visitor? I don't know. Anyway, you have got a cousin living in Givat Brennan, his name is so and so, and that's it. I don't want to hear what happened now during the first, till the British went out from England.
I imagine that there's probably some researcher who would probably like to know about that. Yeah. But our subject basically finishes with Germany. I'd like to ask you now.
One more point, a little bit to illustrate the predicament of the Jewish relief worker in a British zone, a British military government which was very much hated here in Palestine and was very much trying not to show their negative attitude towards Jews, which partly was made up or came because of the tension in Palestine, but partly, I think, of natural anti-Semitism. In end of 46, I had my own Volkswagen by then. I don't know what the reason was. I was stationed at that time still in Düsseldorf, and I made a visit to headquarters. I think it must have been even in order to complain that I don't get any physical help, any parcels or anything to give those infiltrees. I took with me my secretary from the union, from the Jewish Relief Unit from Düsseldorf. I had employed her because she was a friend of this Hannah Bernard-Rath. Hannah Bernard-Rath, I don't remember anymore. She was a German Jew, and she survived apparently because one of her parents was a non-Jew. Anyway, I took her on as a secretary. Not that she was such a good secretary, but to give her employment. I took her with me in order that she could meet Hannah Bernard-Rath. She was in Eindhausen. She hadn't met yet. On the way back, Autobahn at that time existed. All the bridges had been blown up. So there were many bridges on the Autoline, on the Autobahn. For each direction a separate bridge usually. But the military only had got around of repairing one side. I mean, whenever you came near a bridge, it was a one-way thing. Either one traffic from the other side or you had to go very careful. It was very rainy that afternoon when we went back. It was already evening. There was no traffic at all because it was only military traffic anyway. And I could see where I was speeding. I don't know what speeding at that time meant, but it must have been 80, 90, 100 kilometers in my Volkswagen with that girl sitting next to me. And I already could see another 2 or 3 kilometers. There was a bend, and the bend was another Bailey Bridge like that. And I get near the bridge, I see from the opposite direction coming a car. The nearer it came, I realized it was a big truck. Trucks means military trucks. And he didn't dim his lights. And I couldn't give any brakes because it was wet. And it was raining, and couldn't see very well. And not only now he didn't dim, but the lights of his own lights, they were reflected in the wet street. So I had 4 lights in. I said, "Good Lord, if I only get over that bridge without anything happening." And before 200 meters before get to the bridge, he got there and crossed the bridge before me, also speeding like hell. And he was still on he didn't go back to his side. He should have gone back to the lane on my side. He only get over that bridge or get over that guy. Then I didn't hear anything, only said black everything, and turned around. And I said, no, just only if you don't go down the Morad there. And then the car stopped. I don't know, it took me not half an hour, but it took me some time, a few seconds, once a few minutes to get out. First of all, I was glad that girl, nothing happened to her. And I got out, the left front wheel was gone, the right wheel was already going towards down, the whole left side was completely gone, ripped off. I had ripped through my tunic, through my winter coat, in the tunic, ripped through open. I was bleeding there, I didn't notice it at that time. And I looked around, I ran back, I thought it might be an accident, he must also happen to him. He went on speeding. Must have been either a Negro or one of these, what you call this German guy who was standing now to trial in Jerusalem, Kamanyuk. Yeah, he was also driver of the American, one of these guys. So, next thing then, what do we do? So hardly any traffic is said. 1 or 2 cars pass, and I flagged them down. I says, kind enough, you go next, I think it was Essen, go there and into military police and tell them they should send a truck to lift me up. Yeah, 1 or 2 hours waiting. And then came a lorry, not a truck with a crane, to pick up the 3 German civilians sent by the military police, talking proper German, slang German. Oh, לא ידענו. טוב, את הבחורה, את המזכירה, אני מקודם כבר שלחתי עם האוטו הראשון, המיליטרי קאר, the military car which passed me in order that she shouldn't stay in the rain. And I went with that truck back, and they couldn't do anything. When we got to Essen, first of all, I made a report, and they brought me first aid. And my luck that they wrote down I had an accident, really been looked at first aid and so on. And then they straight away sent a collecting truck, and I waited there for an hour or 2, and then they came with a car without wheels. He came there, the wheels had been already pinched. No, nobody knew whether they pinched the wheels or it had been pinched. Now, why did I tell you the whole thing? The main thing, I really gone over it. What happened? The first car which stopped was a military police car, British military police car. And I reported to him. Of course, there was no wireless in the car that he could report back. He started making a report. He took this pencil and write down my name and rank and whatnot. And terrible, what are you going to do? And then he asked me what unit. I said, Jewish relief. He said, what unit? He put his pencil back into his pocket. He said, which side of the bridge occurred that accident? Here on the right side of the bridge? This is not my department. And went to the car and went away. This is not our area. We are only responsible up to the bridge.
Mm-hmm. So in the end, were you...
Yeah, that happened. They made me a military trial. They wanted me to make me a trial because of the pinching of the three wheels.
You had pinched.
Not I pinched. They brought the car home, but there were the 3 wheels were missing. I should have stayed with the car in order to protect that nobody's pinching the wheels. But now, as they had written in my report that I had been wounded and what not wounded? Injured. And so in the first aid, so I was excused.
You mentioned